Good morning, everybody. It's 2 in the morning, Zonk. Really? Hey, Steve. Hey, Dark. Hey, Nicholas. Jason. Stardust Soul. Hello. Hey, everybody. All right, let's eat some cheese. Yeah. Hey, Seamus. So today I've got two cheeses. One is a local award-winning Gruyere cheese with slightly fruity but complex earthy flavours. So this is a 2019 Silver Award-winning cheese from Barry's Bay Traditional Handcrafted Cheese in Akaroa in New Zealand. So let's give it a go. Hey Aaron, hey Michael. Sarah. Jan Shevik. Quinton. Morgan. Hey Kairos. Kedron. Okay. Interesting. I've got my extremely sharp Baccarat knife today, not my little cheese knife. Let's slice a decent slice of this, see how it goes. Gruyere. You only came in here for the cheese, Jibble. Nice. Mine, you're on your lunch break. Perfect. Hey, Faith. Okay. That is a very nice cheese. It's very smooth, very mild. Slightly fruity with complex earthy flavours. I wouldn't say exactly that it's complex. It's a very edible cheese, that's for sure. It's got a pleasant sort of rubbery texture. It's just nice. Not much of an aftertaste per se. Tertiary elemental plane of cheese, yeah, don't I wish. Some cheeses, yes, Dark Strider, some cheeses, no. Like apple fruits can quite often really mask all the best qualities of a cheese. Okay, about the video on the Kraken. I've taken it down temporarily, like I've just set it to private. The comments and stuff are still there, and I do want to answer as many of those as I can. Unfortunately, I uploaded it right before I went to bed last night, and as you can see, the aspect ratio on the images on the video are completely out of whack. And I've been working on this, trying to get it fixed, and I think I finally found some information on how to do it, because the company that software that I use just has really bad support. Yeah, no. So I've taken the video down temporarily. I will be releasing the Kraken soon. So those of you who got to see it quickly when I put it up, I'm sorry that the aspect ratio was terrible. The images in it are really actually quite good, but they appear tiny for people using smartphones and stuff. Even on a PC, or if you're streaming through your console, the aspect ratio is going to be terrible. Okay, second cheese. This is a Danish Havarti cheese. It's a semi-soft cheese with a creamy buttery flavour. Yeah, so I've been struggling with this damn aspect ratio thing with this. It's only since I updated the video software that it started doing this. which is really frustrating because I didn't expect it at all, and I have no idea why they've done this. It's so stupid. I mean, of course everybody's going to be using their video software to make YouTube videos, so why would they mess with the aspect ratio? Why not just set YouTube as the default, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio as far as I know. Wow, this is quite a solid rubbery type cheese. Ooh. It's a very creamy, soft cheese, semi-soft cheese with a very fresh, light flavor that would be absolutely amazing on a melt. Oh, I quite like that one. That's like a palate cleansing cheese. Creamy, buttery flavor is exactly what it has. Yeah, that's really nice. I'll polish off that entire thing. Oh, it's got a nice aftertaste too. Okay, so Danish Havati, very nice. Well done, Danish people. You got your tickets to Avengers Endgame? Nice. Let me just pop out the chat here. I'm losing some people. I have not seen Avengers yet, but I'm definitely going to. It's true, Dragon Turtle. I have eaten many different cultures. I am a fiend that consumes microbes. Many perish. Oh, that's okay, Eric. Don't worry about it. Dude, you should see some of the comments I get. Make this video! It's okay. I accept comments in all their different forms, even the troll-like ones. Like, a lot of people don't know how to make a comment that's like a critique of something without trolling somebody. They've never learned, and you just got to respond with, like, okay, I understand what you're saying. You could have said it better, but I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate your critique. That's how this channel evolves and grows. And I'm happy to say that, yeah, I took down that Kraken video temporarily because I'm just not happy with the quality of it, understandably. The audio is fine. Yeah, there are, yeah, so Chris has a good point there. The Kraken has, in Dungeons & Dragons, changed artistic form a lot, but they are essentially large squids. They're cephalopods, like an octopus or a giant squid type thing. So in Dungeons & Dragons in 5th edition, they're probably the most removed from a large squid that they've ever been, which is fine, because Krakens are not averse to changing their own forms just to do what they want to do. Kraken's goal is to have nothing to do with the gods. As far as they're concerned, the gods created perfect beings, and they don't need gods anymore. Hey, Kajak, thank you. I'm thinking of rolling up a new character. Do you think an Oathbreaker Fallen Asmar would be reasonable? Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. I don't see any problem with that at all. Gerbil, they do need to actually breathe. They don't need to breathe water. They can breathe air or water, but they can't breathe cheese. So it would possibly kill them if they couldn't get to the surface of the brie fast enough. Good question. That'll probably come up as a wish. You know, I'm going to turn the ocean to cheese. What? Nice one, John. Yeah, if people want to join me eating cheese at the start of the videos, I'm more than happy. Hey, thanks, Alex. Here's the money for you. Thank you. Nice. Yeah, Dragon Turtle, that's exactly right. Mr. Rex has got it exactly right. According to the 3.5 Draconomicon, when the dragons die, they either become liches, they eat their horde and ascend, presumably to their afterlife, or merge with the land in an area. Yep. Any tips for making a drow sorcerer? Work on your accent, mainly. Hey, Bryce. What kind of weapons or alchemical ingredients could you get from a kraken? Almost anything. They tend to not clean up their lairs. They're interested in breeding slaves to pamper to them, like take care of their every physical need. They mostly just sort of slumber most of the time, and when they wake up, they just exert their will on everything around them. They're really quite horrific. There's a lot of details on, like, I covered a lot of what an encounter with the Kraken would be like, and I sort of left it wide open to what sort of creatures you would encounter in the Kraken's lair, because that's where you add the individual flavour of the Kraken. They are super intelligent. They've got an intelligence of 22. What kind of accent does Drow have? It depends on where they come from. So they've got a sort of a... I've heard them with a kind of a refined Spanish-Irish lilt. Does that mean that they have souls that can go to an outer plane? Dragon Turtle, they've got an essence that can go to an outer plane. They are an elemental creature, don't forget. They're not like a flesh and blood creature. They don't have a soul the same as a mammal or a reptile does. They've got a draconic soul. So that's why they can merge with the element of their plane, in which case it'll be merging with the environment around them, or consuming their horde and ascending to the elemental planes, or the astral plane. Dragon Turtles versus Kraken. Kraken by a country mile. Kraken would munch on a dragon turtle. Hey, Tracy. Could a primordial be considered a great old one for great old one warlock? Yes, absolutely. What's it like being a slave to a Kraken? What is the life expectancy? Slim to none. They are quite often bred in captivity, so they've never known the surface world. All they know is this horrific cavern deep under the ocean. So that's, first of all, it's extremely hard to get out and get away from there. So they're hopeless, and they have nothing. They're essentially just biological slaves with no education or anything like that. They're just completely mentally dominated by the Kraken. So even if you do manage to rescue the slaves of the Kraken, they could be completely mentally damaged. Just animals, really. Hey, James. Yeah, dragons do literally take it all with them. Bizarre as it seems. So yeah, I will get that Kraken video fixed up and uploaded as soon as this live stream is done. I'll fix it somehow. It shouldn't take me longer than an hour or so. No creatures regularly take on Krakens aside from other Krakens, and it's generally, hey Greenscythe, and it's generally during the mating process. Krakens are compelled to mate. They call it they've got all sorts of bad words for the compulsion to mate. They don't like it, and when they do, there's mostly females, very few males, and the females tend to tear each other apart to get to the males. So that's when you find bits of Kraken floating through the ocean as the females have torn each other apart. And then they spawn these huge black eggs that they lay in deep ocean trenches. And occasionally females are driven to eat their own clutch of eggs, which actually drives them completely insane. So that's from the original Kraken article in Dragon magazine. Yeah, Scarab, you're losing your last 4% of your phone battery. Oh, that's dedication for you. Thanks, Greenscythe. Yeah, I will have that Kraken video back up again soon, everybody. I'm sorry about the aspect ratio on the images. I will fix it up. Aboleths versus the Kraken. The Kraken and the Aboleth probably work together sometimes. It's unclear exactly what the relationship between Aboleth and Kraken are. One of the things that I talk about in the Kraken video, for those of you who haven't watched it yet, or just going into depth, females bigger than males? No, they're the same size. They don't have an adult size. They just keep on growing. So they get bigger and bigger the older they get. No, they absolutely don't like it. They don't really have a lot of numbers, Tracy. That's the point. They don't like mating, but when they do, the eggs have a gestation period before they hatch of a decade. It takes 10 years for a Kraken egg to hatch. At which case, they're already pretty big, so they're the size of a giant squid, even at baby size. And from there on, they just basically hunt the deep ocean trenches, feeding on whether they need to, and they just grow in size gradually. Good question, Dragon Turtle. Can Kraken naturally plane shift, or do they use item spells and natural portals? They use all of the above. They can't naturally plane shift, but they can use anything that they find. No, Kedron, I use VideoPad by NCH Software, which is probably a bad choice, but it's the one I'm used to now, and I'm determined to get it working properly because I actually have paid money for it. I should learn how to use other video editing software for sure. I mean, they're all much of a muchness. But they've always got something that I don't like about them, like something that I'm used to using that the new software doesn't have. And I find it annoying. Krakens do have plots of their own. I don't go into great detail on what those plots are because that's really up to the Dungeon Master. They're completely narcissistic. Have you thought about creating an Alhoon version of a Kraken? I'm sure they can become liches. They don't need to because they don't die of old age. Raise a baby Kraken for a vehicle mount. Yeah, maybe. Lobotomize a Kraken. Kraken versus Godzilla. Still a Kraken. No, it's not always Godzilla. In this case, it's the Kraken. Like, this is how fearsome Krakens can be. When a god says, I'm releasing the Kraken, all the other gods go, you what? What? So in the video on the Kraken, I go into some detail about, and it's a little bit like I have to get a bit inventive in my grammar about past, present, and future. But I talk about how in Dungeons and Dragons, when I'm talking about these races like the Aboleth and their origin, like where they come from and things, and then I say that they've been divorced from the original timeline. They hadn't So the origin that I'm talking about no longer exists. I'm saying where they originally came from before all the temporal shifting and space-time shenanigans of the gods completely stranded them. So Illithids, for example, don't have a planet of origin or anything anymore. They went back in time and created themselves. So Illithid arrived from the future and implanted parasites into host bodies and created more Illithids. So Illithids just appear in the timeline. Before they traveled back from the future, whatever timeline they were in originally, they evolved as parasites on some distant planet. So they were alien beings from far away. When they went back in time and arrived way before their actual evolution and created themselves, bootstrapped themselves into existence, i.e. lifted themselves up by their own bootstraps, they effectively removed their original origin story, particularly because they then spread out across the prime material planes, found their original planet that they evolved on, and completely dominated all resources and actually prevented their original existence. But it didn't matter anymore because they had gone back in time and already created their own race. So there you go. That's one way that the Kraken were also divorced from their original reality, because they were created to fight in the wars between gods and primordials. This war between gods and primordials is a temporal war as well as a spatial war that's going on all the time. It's still going on. So the Dawn War, the war at the beginning of creation, is actually the war that determines reality as we know it in Dungeons and Dragons. So Krakens are part of an original iteration of this war that was a total warfare between individuals, where they sent Kraken against each other. And that original universe that the Kraken were created in no longer exists. So Krakens didn't feel particularly bound to any creation anyway, any particular iteration of reality. So they don't care. As long as they exist, it makes the universe that they're in relevant as far as they're concerned. Ooh, Kraken versus Crawling Apocalypse from Sandstorm. That's pretty specific, Green Scythe. I'm going to go with the Crawling Apocalypse on that one. Do I prefer the Giant Squid conventional Kraken or the amalgamation of all sea creatures Kraken? I prefer the Giant Squid version because I'm old school. I don't mind the amalgamation Kraken. I think the design is really good. It's fine with me. I like the fact that they're more alien looking. You'd hate to see the primordial counter to the Kraken. Well, the primordial's general answer is infuse matter itself with massive amounts of life and energy. So they created the elemental princes and things like that to basically infuse raw matter with intelligence and ego. So that's where you get the princes of elemental evil. But don't forget, not all elementals are evil. In fact, they're mostly neutral. Have I been enjoying the Dungeon Synth Archives channel, AJ? I haven't seen the Dungeon Synth Archives channel, Nicholas. I'd like to. Shout out to the Dungeon Synth Archives channel. Yeah, I like cephalopods as well. I prefer squid. Anything with giant tentacles is okay by me. Gee, that sounded wrong, didn't it? I've actually got a policy of never eating baby octopus in restaurant and things like that, because for me it's like I know how intelligent and full of personality that octopi actually are. They're quite intelligent little creatures. They're as intelligent as a house cat, and I don't like eating them because yeah. Also, we're not aware of. You may have, Nicholas, I don't know. I don't think I've seen them. The Ghost of Saltmarsh book does appear to have Kraken artwork on it based on previous previews that look like the 3 edition Kraken. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do. Squid crab mix, yeah. Everything is squishier with cephalopods. Cephalopods are extremely strong. Like if you get a giant Pacific octopus on your face when you're out scuba diving, it's life-threatening because they are so strong you can't get them off you. It's like a chimpanzee. They're strong enough to hang on to you and you just can't physically get them off you because you're not strong enough. Same thing with octopi. They're extremely strong. Bronze dragons could gang up to try and take on a Kraken. Don't forget the Kraken never operate alone. So you're making all these assumptions that, you know, big giant monster versus other big giant monster. It's not. It's big giant monster versus horde of mind-controlled minions controlled by big giant monster. And when you get to that big giant monster, it goes, see ya, and disappears, goes off to some other place where it's prepared another big horde of minions that it just steps into its previous abode, reactivates its old minions, and you're back to square one. So you're talking about a monster which has successive waves, like a whatchamacallit, in Vietnam they had those fire bases, right, where they had successive rings before you got to the command camp sort of thing. So you're talking about waves of undead creatures and then waves of mind-controlled aberrations and things. And once you finally get into the chambers that contain the Kraken, then you're dealing with these desperate, depraved, mutated horrific remnants of descendants of sailors that were captured off boats that have been down there basically slathered in Kraken goo, who will do anything in their power to kill you. And then you've got to get through them, this massive horde of bodies, before you can actually get to the Kraken itself. And the Kraken is residing in a lake full of parasites and all sorts of horrible aberrations. Like sort of, I would use something like Gluestick as a base template for the sort of parasites that are inside the pond where the Kraken will be lounging. And then, yeah, it's firing rays and all sorts of things at you from magical items and rings and ion stones and all sorts of stuff. And then finally, when you get to the Kraken and get a couple of hits in, if you're lucky, it vanishes. Plane shifts away from there. So it's a really hard fight. Yeah, dragons don't often operate alone either. Absolutely true. Oh, yeah, octopus is delicious, but you might as well just eat a squid. Same thing. Hey, Michael. Kraken versus nuclear depth charge. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Spheres of annihilation. Zebu, some octopi don't live past 5 years old because they die during the breeding process, but we know so vanishingly little about other breeds of... we don't know a lot about other breeds of octopi. We've got examples of an octopi that was spotted with a parasitic octopi that was attached to it, and we have no idea, other than that image of it taken in a deep sea exploration mission. We know nothing about the life cycle of those two octopi. As far as we're concerned, they could have been immortal for all we know. We just don't know enough about the deep oceans. How many true dragons can you name? I don't know, part of a drinking game, possibly a few. How would you design an octopus-headed non-illithid race? I'd use the Ood from Doctor Who. Less brain-devouring, more squishy amphibious friends, like the illithid shape, but not the evil air-breathing bit. Oh, so you basically make a cephalopod species of semi-humanoid. So they're an octopus that basically can walk around on the land, contain enough water to breathe, like in the form of a cyst backpack, and then walk around on the surface, dress in robes and stuff, and trade with people and things, and every now and then they'll whisk off to a tank and go and breathe up heaps of salt water. Hey, Fiona. Do Kraken ever cooperate with other equally powerful sea monstrosities? They must bow to something else under the sea. Storm giants, perhaps? No, they don't. As far as Kraken is concerned, they're on an equal par with gods and primordials. They were designed to fight and kill primordials and gods. So, yeah, they don't consider themselves equal to any mortal creature. Yeah, that's it, Jonathan. That's exactly what they do. So it's a behavioural thing. It's not necessarily strictly a biological thing. It's a behavioural thing. So it's possible to rescue an octopi. Possibly, we don't know. Some octopi are more colour changing than others. What does Kraken taste like, I wonder? Really bad squid. Really bad squid. Like, imagine a combination of the most potent hallucinogenic that you could possibly have and squid. So the idea that Dagon enslaves Kraken. Yeah, okay, yeah. So Dagon is the primary big bad of the oceans. Kraken versus storm giants. Storm giants tend to avoid Kraken. They don't deal. Yeah, definitely a mastermind in a campaign, for sure, Frederick. Yes, the Kraken is a super weapon that was abandoned, got way out of hand. So it's almost like the gods reordered reality again, and Kraken got left behind, and they just sort of were so busy with their business, and none of them really wanted to deal with the Kraken problem. Meanwhile, the Kraken are just like, you can't delete us. Do we have the blue ring octopus in New Zealand super poisonous? No, we don't, as far as I know. Hey, Lucas. You yearn for the day a full army of storm giants assault the Kraken cavern. Totally. That would be a really good way for a lesser, a lower level party to encounter a Kraken storm giant situation without actually having to face the Kraken themselves. So they come in on the boot heels of a storm giant squad that is going in to take out a Kraken. And that way you get to describe the truly epic combat that ensues without the player characters being at deadly risk of destruction. I mean, there's still a very dangerous environment, but you get to describe some like truly epic D&D action. How about a Kraken in the Lost Sea of Athos and Dark Sun? Your thoughts, AJ? Yeah, I don't know. Could be. Yeah, none of the gods wanted to ask the Kraken question. Exactly. Kraken versus Leviathan. So Kraken in 5th edition pretty much are Leviathan. They've just sort of melded the two concepts together. Again, Chase. So when you say Krakens and Notropals were created during the same conflict, it is the same general conflict, but it may as well be different realities entirely. So Krakens and Atropals are not super weapons. They were primordials that were just concerned with destroying everything. So imagine you're the kid in the sandbox that loves kicking over everybody else's sandcastles. That's Atropals. How do Krakens feel about dragons and mind flayers? So mind flayers for the Kraken would be like strange little reflections. Like they would be like us looking at a little monkey, right? It's an animal that looks like you a little bit. So you see yourself reflected in it. So we have a fond spot for monkeys in a way, but it's not an equal to you. You wouldn't give a monkey your car keys and tell it to go down to the dairy and pick up a bottle of milk for you. You know, so Kraken consider mind flayers to be interesting, like little versions of themselves in a way, and they're impressed with what the mind flayers managed to do. So the Kraken are aware of the universe where the mind flayers are complete control of it, for instance. So it may be that the Kraken of the D&D world, when it wakes up and it sees mind flayers around it, it would be like, you're the dominant race of this reality. Why aren't you in charge of everything? And then the mind flayer would like sort of kick a stone and go, well, it's going to happen later on. You know. Of course, they wouldn't be dealing with the mind flayers. They'd be dealing with the elder brain. The mind flayers are just pawns as far as they're concerned. Drones. The mind flayers can't do that to if you watch the Mind Flayer video, there's a limited amount of energy that a parasite has to ceramorphosize something. So they can't do it to giant creatures because the parasite will die before the ceramorphosis is complete. So they can't transform giant creatures like Kraken into Mind Flayers, or dragons or anything like that. Although, feel free to bend that rule if the rule of cool overrides it. If you need to have a Mind Flayer dragon in your campaign, so be it. Put a ring of sustenance and a ring of regeneration on a parasite, and insert it into said host, and see what happens. How can you buy my merchandise? Just go to Teespring and look up the Mighty Gluestick, and you'll be able to buy a fantastic, deeply nerdy t-shirt like so. And thank you very much. Also, I've got a big like this is a beach towel up here behind me with the Deeply Nerdy logo on it. Brain Stealer Dragons, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of there, Nicholas, in regards to how you can bend the rules a little bit. Yeah, they need a ritual to be made. So the ritual, I presume, preserves the life or extends the life of the parasite to actually complete the metamorphosis. Could an aboleth dominate a Kraken, or just an epic battle? As far as I know, Kraken are not immune to mind control. They're immune to paralysis, but they're not immune to magic. So magic could dominate a Kraken. Would other Kraken tolerate that sort of behavior, though? Leviathan is a separate creature in D&D. 5e. Yeah. Let's see. Well, we've got the Kraken and the Core Monster Manual. And let me just head over to D&D Beyond here. Let's see what it says about Leviathan. So Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes tells us that the Leviathan is a gargantuan elemental. It's an elemental creature. So it's an elemental that they call a Leviathan. So quite different from the flesh and blood creature, which is a Kraken. On their native planes, elementals sweep across the weird and tempestuous landscape. Some possess great power gained by feeding on their lesser kin and adding the essence of the creatures they devour into their own until they become something extraordinary. When summoned, these elder elementals manifest as beings of apocalyptic capability, entities whose mere existence promises destruction. So that is what 5th edition calls a Leviathan. So quite a different kettle of fish. Yeah, so Leviathan from earlier editions were quite different. No, I don't, John. I don't stream anything other than this at the moment. I have looked at Twitch on a number of different occasions, but every single time it just sort of creeps me out a little bit because Twitch needs to sort out its shit. Yeah, exactly. They used the World Serpent myth and turned it up a notch. Lachey could beat Kraken by imitation. Neolithid only eat, they don't reproduce. Yeah, that's true. There's a Mind Flayer dragon called the Brain Stealer dragon. Yeah. So neolithids are illithid tadpoles that have eaten other tadpoles to the point where they've attained non-transformative parasitic full growth. So they're the adult form of the parasite, without any other being that they've taken over. Yeah, the Monster Manual calls the Krakens Leviathans of legend. Yeah. See you later, Frederick. Yeah, well, Leviathan is a I believe it's a biblical myth. I'm an okay DM. I'm all right. Yep, I'm going to do more Fae videos, more C videos and things like. And we're hitting the bit of the monster manual as I complete the core monster manual. So we've got the Kraken. I've already done a video on the Kotoa. I've already done the Lamia and the Lich. I've already done the Lizard Folk. Already done the Lycanthropes. I think we're going to go to the Magman. And then the, where are we? Merfolk and the Marrow. So Magman, Merfolk, Marrow, they're definitely sea creatures. And where to next? Done the Mycona, done the Nagas. Oh, the Nightmare. Another video on the Ogres and half Ogres. Done the Oni, some more Oozes maybe. Already talked about the Orcs. Already done the Otug and the Owlbear. Pegasus and the Pegasus. Yeah, so I've got plenty more work to do. But I want to do some more aquatic stuff for sure. Because it's a big subject to cover. You want to put a Neolithid into a Tarrasque. Could I do monster versus videos? No, I don't really want to do monster versus videos. I find it kind of boring. I like bringing new information about monsters. Like bringing you the lore about monsters. Just a monster versus another monster. Anybody can do that. It's just a stat battle. What creature do you think could evenly do a one-on-one with a Kraken and win? Probably something like one of the really big Lenorms, like the one that's gnawing on the roots of Yggdrasil. Like they're pretty epic big monsters. Our epic dragons could certainly take on Krakens. Drizzt, not Drizzt. Yeah, still have to review the Pegasus. Oh, interesting, Dragon Lord. Yeah, the Behemoth and the Ziz. Exactly, William. Yeah, you can absolutely awaken a Lurfet, and I guess you could make it a Fey Warlock familiar, but there's only a limited amount of time that an awakened spell would last. And as far as I know, does 5th edition have permanency, spell permanency? Is there a way to make a spell permanent? Because awaken doesn't last forever, does it? Or does it? I don't think it does. What about more in-depth culture videos? Yeah, sure. Midgard Serpent, yeah. The Faerie have a defined origin in history, but as a Faerie, any elf with fiendish ancestry or just the specific Faerie. I think it's the gold elves with a fiendish ancestry. Yeah. So they're pretty much, they're different from, they're not like a elven version of a mind's drawn a blank. Humans with horns, tiefling. They're not like an elven version of a tiefling. They're evil, fiendish creatures. You want more regional videos? Yeah, so do I. Oh, my pleasure, William. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You more than most. Yeah. Oh, there are artifacts to make the awakened spells permanent? Cool. Okay. Yes, Platinum Sketch, I definitely do. And also I've got a video coming up which is patron request, so I'd like to do that pretty soon, which is how you make magic items. And I'd also like to do a video on specific magic armors and things like that, and specific magic weapons. Yeah, for sure, talking about that sort of thing. Do the Forgotten Realms have tennis? I don't think I've ever seen it mentioned. Is the Kraken bigger than the Tarrasque? So the Kraken is gargantuan, which means it has a base of 20 by 20 squares on your game maps. And it's got a reach of 30 feet with its tentacles from that square. So it's a pretty big footprint. Yeah. The tricky thing with the Tarrasque is they're mainly terrestrial, and I think they could outmaneuver a Kraken if it was just came down to a physical fight, because the Tarrasque are really resistant to magic, right? So that would be the main method that a Kraken would use to attack them from range. One-on-one, though, one-on-one. Let me just double check here. You got me curious. One-on-one. Okay, well, Tarrasques are not immune to lightning. So they are going to get absolutely pulverized with the lightning storm attacks, so the main thing with the Kraken is they can make you vulnerable to lightning attacks with their lair actions, and then that's if they get the Tarrasque into the water, in which case they then pulverize the Tarrasque with 6 lightning bolts per round. That'll be game over for the Tarrasque pretty quickly. Hey, thanks, Don't Worry. Think you could do a video on the abominations and other terrible things created around and during the Dawn War? Yeah, like the Kraken is an abomination that was created during the Dawn War. I'd like to do some of the stuff in the Epic level handbook, for sure, and continue on with the Elder Evils series. You can't wait till the Netheril videos come out. Hint, hint. Yeah, don't forget. Like I've got to stress to you that I've got to get the core monster manual finished. So I've got more dragons and things like that, which I'm going to be popping in and things. But I'm primarily concentrating on getting those last 19 odd videos out so I can complete the monster manual in a series of ecology videos. Because as far as I know, nobody's done that before. Oh, thanks, John. Be good. How do you stat half dragon, half shadow, old, purple, or hybrid dragons? Rules for it in the 2nd edition Dragon. There was a half dragon's appropriate power to be in a normal party. Half dragons generally aren't intended to be in a normal party. You might as well use a dragonborn. Yeah. Spooky speed in water, nice. Thanks, Kajak. How do you feel about the grimdark campaigns where not everything is black and white, just various shades of grey, and the PCs reflect this? Well, that's kind of like the norm for your general home games. It's not often that you come across a purely like we're playing evil characters campaign, or a purely we're playing all good paladins, righteous upholders of justice, etc. It's usually a sort of a bit of grey area, grimdark sort of thing, particularly with player characters being able to kind of murder things with impunity without getting arrested quite often. And very, very often you'll have the characters turn around and attack lawgivers and things like that who dare to tell them that they're breaking the laws of the land, particularly if they're not kowtowing to nobles, which is a problem as far as nobles are concerned. They don't want unlicensed mercenaries with magical weapons walking around doing stuff on their land. They want to control them and tell them what to do, because they have a better idea of what's going on in the land in general. Are there any democracies in Forgotten Realms? Yeah, there are. Like almost every single political system that you can think of is represented in some area in the Forgotten Realms. Like, for instance, if you go far to the east, there's an area where people set up kingdoms all the time, and you can pretty much carve out your own kingdom and rule it how you wish. And if you want to set up a democracy or a republic, that's fine. Yeah, game over for the Trask pretty quickly. It's not something you get to say very often. Yeah. Dragons! Line attack reflects off its carapace. There's nothing stopping the Kraken from grabbing it with its 10 tentacles and flipping on it's on its back, because they're very strong. And also there's those currents which can move anything 60 feet. So, yeah. The Aarakocra are building Shining Hill settlements for some reason, huh? Shining Hill. I'm not familiar with that. You just wanted to know how big the Kraken can get? So generally speaking, like traditionally in the Dragon magazine article, they're 100 feet long. Although in Wiki it says that citation is needed for that. Well, it's clearly written in the Dragon magazine. I should really go and edit that Wiki, honestly. Yeah, that's what I want to do, Dragon Turtle, is make a proper set of playlists so people can navigate the Dungeons and Dragons monster manual in the form of ecology videos. So I would have an introductory video, which is actually a stamped. It's essentially an index video, which takes you to all the different videos that you need to go to. So you'd have in the video itself, there would be links to the videos, all the different videos that. So you'd have an image of the monster, a link up for the video in question, and down below in the description text, it would be time-stamped with all the places in the video where you can link. And basically it would have hot links to every single monster ecology video, A to Z, which is a lot. There's like 200 something odd monsters in here. Yeah, I think it's like 250 monsters, something like that. 100 feet, yeah. No, it doesn't want to get into melee combat with a Tarask. Absolutely not. Nobody in their right minds wants to get into a fisticuff battle with a Tarask. Yeah, Tarasks are big, dumb animals that destroy everything, and Kraken are super smart. They would find a way of destroying the Tarask before it ever gets to them. How many tickles do you need to tickle a Kraken? 10 tickles! Funny. What's your personal theory on the Lachey origin? I don't know. This is what I'm saying. There is, I would come up with something different for every single campaign world where they're involved, just for shits and giggles. I would literally come up with a different Lachey origin every single time I use them. Oh, that's right, Kedron. I appreciated it. Half Baelor, half Sun Elf. Sired by a Glabrizu. Yeah, if you want to get into like a real twisted environment, look at Narfell in Forgotten Realms. The history of Narfell is gnarly. Talk about a sick and twisted environment, that one. Kraken, bro. Dragon Turtle versus Kraken, who will win? Absolutely the Kraken. Thanks, Stanley. I'm glad that answer satisfied you. Yeah, like, you know me. I don't want to tell you how to run your game. I'm just providing you. I'm just grabbing the keys and unlocking the door and showing you that there's a lot of different options. And the lore should always just be a bouncing off point for your own decisions on how you want to play your game. It's all about your story. All of this is just elements that you can drop in there. pre-made sort of thing. But absolutely use the Lachey, use the Kraken and stuff as inspiration for your own creations, for your own D&D world. Homebrew is really, really huge amounts of fun. It's the primary reason why you want to dungeon master a game is to tell stories. What void, Dark Strider? Ancient dragon versus Kraken depends on the sort of dragon. Ancient white dragon? Nah. Ancient blue dragon? No, maybe. They're immune to electricity. That's when the Kraken pulls out a ring of dragon control that it just happened to take from a world that it destroyed once. You know? And the dragon says, ha ha ha, well, I've got a wand of squid frying. The Kraken's like, no! Well, the Kraken wouldn't do that. They can't talk. They'd go, no! No, 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 no. With their telepathy. Yeah, big battles. Would a Kraken worship Bludupulp or venerate her in a way? So they do have a god. I'll talk about Panzuriel for a second. Where did I leave that? Here's the script for the Kraken video, by the way. 9 pages. It could easily have been 20 pages long. It was just a huge amount of material. So, Panzuriel. There's a symbol. It's a squid eye with 10 tentacles around it. So, it's kind of Kraken-y to begin with. I'll just read you exactly what Panzuriel's all about. It's an intermediate god, neutral evil. The god of the sea's foulest evils, Panzuriel ever seeks twisted minds to abominate visionaries to carry out, and abominable visionaries to carry out his will both below and above the waves. The Writhing One welcomes all evil ocean-dwelling creatures into its crushing fold, with Sahuagin, sea hags, scrags, and kotoas, heretics against Bludupulp, proving particularly prevalent. However, Panzuriel prefers creatures warped of body as well as of mind, making Koprus and Krakens his favourite children. Panzuriel bears an ancient hatred for Deep Sashelis, patron of aquatic elves, in eons long past. Eons long lost. Panzuriel sought to make the darkened lands below the sea his exclusive domain, perverting them into the roiling oceans of fluid horrors. An alliance of opposed gods, led by Deep Sashelis, rose to resist the Writhing One, driving his corruptive ambition from the material plane and cutting off his left foot. The god's massive gnarled appendage fell into the ocean water but was never found. Thus, Panzuriel retains a slight link to the mortal world, and through his favoured minions seeks to corrupt the seas and avenge his ancient exile. So, exiling a god from a plane of existence means that the plane of existence has changed, so that he never existed there in the first place. So this lost limb of Sashelis is an otherworldly artifact that has no reason for existing. So it's abominant. It's an aberration, and it's a god flesh thing, which is like a centerpiece for a campaign to get rid of some object of utter evil. So his symbol is a left footprint, a kraken head or a squid eye surrounded by 9 tentacles. 9 tentacles. Confusion, murder, subversion, and evil aquatic creatures are his portfolios. His domains are corruption, darkness, evil, and water. His favoured weapon is a whip for land-dwelling worshippers, or a net for use underwater. So if you're using cultists of Panzuriel, whips and chains. The clerical training, they must sacrifice a sea elf in a ceremony known as the Endless Revenging. So cultists will seek to kill elves by drowning, or killing them by feeding them into shark tanks and things like that, or tanks full of predatory squid. The quests, Panzuriel sends visions to his servants to destroy specific ships, raid undersea and coastal communities, and defile the temples of other aquatic deities. So he's mainly concerned with revenge against aquatic beings, Sashelis and stuff. But of course, any of the mortal creatures which are associated with his gods. Huge, complex, low-tonal chants usually conducted in vast groups. The echoing songs of Panzuriel's worshippers are sometimes heard even on the surface, like whale song, where mariners refer to the doleful droning as the wail of the severed god. The temples are huge cave complexes deep underwater or simple stone circles centered around tentacled idols serving as Panzuriel's temples, and Krakens often force slaves to toil for centuries digging unholy trenches deep enough to reveal portals leading to the pool of Panzuriel, said to fester somewhere in Karseri. The rites of Panzuriel are regarded as Panzuriel regards the sea as a battleground between himself and his hated sea elves, making raiding and slaughter the only rights he demands. And Herald and allies. Panzuriel's Herald is a 50 hit dice pseudo-natural kraken known as Turbitus. Corrupted by Panzuriel's maddening will, Turbitus hardly resembles a kraken anymore, appearing more like the writhing one's symbol made flesh, a great swollen red eye surrounded by countless flailing tentacles. Panzuriel's allies are those he most commonly sends to fulfill planet ally spells, are callers from the deeps, half-fiend krakens and Scylians. And this is detailed in the Book of Vile Darkness, the Lords of Madness, and in Stormrack. So it draws on those different articles from sourcebooks for 3.5 edition. So there you go. That's Panzuriel for you. And with that, it's time for me to go, because I need to go and sort out the Kraken video, because I dare say a lot of people are itching to watch it. Hey Stanley, thank you. Wanted to thank you for always doing an amazing job in asking and ask if every single creature or deity that uses magic is subject to Mystra. Ooh, boy, that's a good question. No, because quite a few of them come from planes of existence where Mystra is not dominant. Mystra just controls the magic of Forgotten Realms. D&D is wide open to different places. So Mystra is not from Athos, and she's not from Kryn, she's not from Earth, she's not from Mystara, she's not from Narath. So yeah, there's a lot of creatures which... how many bubbles does a Kraken fart make? A lot. A lot. Crown of Worms, AJ. Yeah, that rings a bell. That would be an artifact that controls dragons, I think. No problem, everybody. What would I call a non-human, elf, dwarf, orc, etc., with fiend blood similar to a tiefling? So you'd call them a fiend-blooded whatever they were, essentially, just descriptively. Mystra is the Kenny of deities. Oh my god, you killed Mystra! It's okay, she's back. She's like the Doctor Who of gods. I've come back, and I like custard and chocolate fish now. Who controls magic on the planes? Sometimes it's wide open. Sometimes nobody does. Oh, I'm sorry, Beyond Beyonder. I missed your question. Hang on, I'll go back and try and find it. I was deep in the... how far back is your question? Just take it out as they did in the movie Clash of the Titans. Seriously, how far back is this question? Sometimes you just got to keep asking me the questions again and again until I get to it. Or that's the reason why Super Chats exist, so I can see them. Sorry man, I can't see your question. I've gone back like 5 minutes. So I'll catch everybody later. See you next weekend, and yeah, thanks for watching all the vids.